Hello, and welcome to Esoterica and Nonsense, a podcast where we discuss myths, legends, folk tales, fairy tales, supernatural phenomenon, and religions from around the world. I am your host, Annabelle. And what a time to be alive here on planet Earth. Truly, what a time. Do you ever feel like you're not from here and you're an alien from another galaxy and you're just here visiting? Because I feel like that every minute of every day. And I know that to be true. I learned this interesting idea, and perhaps I've talked about this before. The idea that because time does not exist, and because our consciousness is unfathomable, that a single person could actually be living within different lifetimes at the same time. Now, granted, I think this is true for everyone because time does not exist. But what I've heard, I heard this from Dolores Cannon, which I actually should do an episode on her. Um, but she had hypnotized somebody and was interviewing their subconscious. And they were talking about this idea that there are certain lives that require more consciousness than others. And so there are some people in human form who this could be like a side gig. Like basically they could be like an alien or like in some other universe living a full life, and then while they're sleeping they could just be human. Does that make any sense? But I'm bringing this up because recently I have really felt that to be so true. I feel that to be so true. And this is just my PSA to everyone to remind you that time is not what it seems. Reality is not what it seems. The owls are not what they seem. Truly, though, what is time? What is reality? Obviously, I think being a human on planet Earth in this time can be really stressful. There are wars, there are genocides, there's human exploitation, animal exploitation, plant exploitation. We're really hurting our beautiful planet. There are so many factors, and just having to pay rent. There are so many factors that go into our daily brain power and what we're thinking about and where we're putting our energy. But I'm just here to remind you that you are an interdimensional being that transcends time and space. And where you put your psychic energy matters. You can literally create realities and bend time and space. So, this is just your reminder to not take things too seriously and really focus more of your energy in the things that you want. For example, I want to put my psychic energy into paradise like scenarios. I want to be in areas with fresh water and oceans and jungles and weird freaky flowers. I want to be around puppies and kittens. I want to put my psychic energy into building a world like that, living a life like that. How fun is that? Eating yummy foods. I want to be astral projecting. I want to be traveling the multiverse with puppies. You know? That's where I'm going to put my psychic energy. And speaking of psychic energy, today we are covering the legendary, the mega powerful spider. I'm so excited. Spiders are so magical and they're so mega powerful. And before we start, I do want to share a little tidbit about the It series because obviously, in the last whatever 10 years, it had a huge resurgence in the zeitgeist. They remade the movies, and now there's like another like a Dairy Maine show coming out. I don't know if you guys know about this. Who cares? Whatever. I have read the book It, And unsurprisingly, the book is so much better than the movies, especially the new movies, which I think did a terrible job, but I'm getting off topic. One thing I love about Stephen King is I really feel like he channels some of his stories, and they do come from very deep places that, I don't know, they're Lovecraftian. It really feels like he's channeling. But in the book It, um, at a certain point, they discover that this creature, which we call Pennywise, is not actually a human. And obviously, Pennywise is not a human, but it's a primordial Lovecraftian creature. It's a primordial demon. From the human perspective, it's a demon. And it came to Earth long before humans existed. And it's interdimensional. And Stephen King describes this creature that if it was to take on any form, it would be a spider, but it's formless. It lives between dimensions. And like, I'm bringing this up because I love this description of this creature. And this is how I see spiders. I see spiders as entities from other realms. I see them almost how I see cats. I see them as entities that can straddle between realms, that exist between realms. And then one more fun fact. Spiders, when often, depending on which breed, uh, spiders is a species, right? So like, yeah, which breed? I'm gonna use breed, like dogs. Correct me in the comments. But depending on which breed of spider, their babies are incredibly small. When spiders are born, they are like teeny, teeny, tiny, and some of them can be like so small. And because they are not warm-blooded, they are so small that they can actually get trapped in wind currents and get pulled up into the jet stream. So some spiders can actually go and travel between continents in the jet stream, sometimes for years at a time, and then land back on Earth in a different continent from where it was born. And so some people theorize, and I love this theory, that if they can exist at freezing temperatures and survive, then theoretically they could survive in space in this baby form. And then after years and years and years, land on another planet. So this is like a crazy fringe theory, but I love this theory, this idea that spiders are aliens. Now, I'm just planting that seed in your mind. We're going to get into the depths of their symbols, their meanings, and how they've affected the ancient world and thus the modern world. Buckle up, babe. Let's begin. From the corner of every room, from the silence between dimensions, the spider waits, still, deliberate, timeless. She is the architect of the unseen, the weaver of fate, the mother of creation and destruction. Across cultures, across time periods, the spider's web has symbolized both destiny and divinity, an invisible lattice connecting all living things. Today, we'll step into the spider's web, exploring how different cultures viewed spiders and how their venom became both medicine and poison. So, spiders are among humanity's oldest symbols, specifically the spider's web. It is truly a living mandala. It mirrors the structure of the universe, the nervous system, and the fabric of time. Also, I don't know if you've ever done mushrooms, but when I do mushrooms, I see what I call the grid, which is essentially a web. It's as if all of reality has no borders. You can look at your hand, and your hand doesn't have defined edges. It's actually a part of a living web that extends forever. And it almost looks like a spider's web. There's like all these shapes that fit into each other perfectly, but they're not all the same shape. And it's just like this never-ending pattern. And you see the pattern in all things. It's a very calculated pattern, like a web. So I'm just throwing that out there because I can confirm time and space is a web. In ancient Egypt, the spider was linked to Neith, the goddess of weaving, creation, and war. Neith was said to weave the world upon her loom, birthing existence through threads of light and shadow. To the Egyptians, the spider symbolized the weaving of fate, creation out of chaos, a theme that echoes through nearly every spider myth worldwide. Are we surprised? No, we are not surprised. Also, in Greece, there is the iconic Arachne, which is where we get this term arachnid. Arachne was a mortal weaver who challenged Athena. When Arachne's tapestry outshone the goddess's Athena, Athena destroyed her tapestry and Arachne herself. Out of shame and divine fury, Arachne hanged herself, but Athena transformed her into a spider so that she could weave forever. Thus, the spider became the eternal artist, punished yet immortal, a reminder of both hubris and divine creativity. And in the West African tradition, the spider is depicted as Anansi, the trickster god. Anansi, who carried all the world's wisdom in a pot. Anansi often represents the cunning intelligence, the storyteller, and the teacher through trickery, the keeper of ancestral knowledge. Through Anansi's webs, he connected humanity to the wisdom of the gods, just as a spider connects each thread to its center. Interestingly, Anansi is depicted as being a trickster. However, I've heard a lot of Anansi tales, and I will tell some Anansi stories coming up. But I do think my biggest takeaways from stories of Anansi's is actually teaching you cunningness, teaching you intelligent thinking. And this idea that Anansi is like much smarter or maybe like a few steps ahead of many people. And this idea that spiders are kind of maybe not all knowing, but mega intelligent because they are so self-sufficient and they weave their own web, but there's an ethereal and magical quality about them that at least I've experienced. So, the spider's web has long been seen as a mirror of cosmic order. Interestingly, in Hindu mythology, the universe itself is often described as a web woven by the Supreme Being, who spins and retracts creation like a spider with its silk. This is why I love Hinduism. This is how I know that their meditations were working, because if they were meditating and seeing the same things I was seeing while I was tripping balls on mushrooms, they're onto something. In the Upanishads, which are some of the Hindu scriptures, it quote says, "As a spider spins and withdraws its thread, so does the divine weave and unweave the universe." I'm going to read that again. I feel like I butchered that. As a spider spins and withdraws its thread, so does the divine weave and unweave the universe. Dude, I'm telling you, I've seen this with my two eyes. If you haven't done mushrooms, this is your chance. This is not a medical recommendation. I'm not a doctor. Trust your intuition, trust your body, but mushrooms has changed my life for the best. And I haven't done mushrooms in years, but the it it has worked. Let's just say that the girls have it's worked and it's been fully integrated, life changing. So, also another iconic spider deity is the Spider Woman from the Navajo cosmology. I am going to attempt to say her name, and I know I'm saying it wrong, but she is known as Naashje Azda. She taught humans how to weave, not merely as craft, but as spiritual alignment. Weaving is spiritual alignment. Do you hear that? Each thread symbolizes harmony and the interconnectedness of all beings. Her web was the pattern of creation itself. Yes. And I feel like I've talked about this before, but this idea that reality is a tapestry. This is to me is like the most straightforward analogy of time and space itself, because if you think about it, each one of us is a single thread, or even more than that, each one of us, with all of our past lives and future lives, creates a thread, because as we know, a thread is actually a woven fiber of all these singular fibers woven together. And then from there, a tapestry is created with all of these interlacing patterns. And that is literally time and space. We are connected through our ancestors, through our family, through our descendants, through our loved ones. We are literally like weaving time and space into itself, both literally and figuratively. It also reminds me of the Greek fates. The fates are also weavers, and they are weaving time. Like what? Like and just to highlight how magical spiders are, what other animal creates an endless web from their bodies? From what I understand, scientists still don't fully understand how spiders have an unlimited source of web. It seems like they can just spin forever. Just think about that. It's crazy. So, next we have Ispapaloto, and this is the quote obsidian butterfly. This is from the Mexica or Aztec tradition. And this spider is sometimes depicted either with spider traits, and she is considered a goddess of both fertility and sacrifice, and sometimes with butterfly traits. So there's like a butterfly spider crossover. In the Mexica tradition, spiders embodied the cycle of life and death, weaving worlds and cutting them down when their time ended. This idea of spiders being an overlord, this is very Lovecraftian, if you ask me. And then, interestingly, in Japan, there is Jorōgumo, who is known as the spider bride or the binding bride. She is a seductive spirit who lures travelers with her beauty and then traps them within her silk. Her myth warns of the seductive dangers of illusion and being ensnared by your own desires. Honestly, just hearing about that, this feels a little bit like men demonizing women. I'm personally triggered. I'm gonna coming up go deeper into some of these myths, but I do want to talk a little bit about spider venom and how that has played a part in the cultivation of medicine and in our fear of spiders. But first, let's take a quick break. Esoterica and Nonsense wants to hear from you. We have listener episodes coming, and I want to tell your story. Maybe you've had a really freaky dream. Maybe you had some crazy religious experience. Maybe you grew up in a cult. Maybe you actually just have some random stories that your grandma used to tell you growing up. Maybe you just want to share something random with me. The floodgates are open. Please email in your story at esotericaandnonsense@gmail.com. Any story that comes to your mind, I want to hear it, even if you just want to say hi. We love that. We are all for it. And get ready for some listener episodes coming soon. So, Surprisingly, or at least surprisingly for me, spiders have actually been used in medicinal practices for thousands of years. In ancient Egypt, a lot of medical professionals would use spiders in ointments and in tinctures. They would often crush spiders with herbs to treat boils, skin infections, and inflammation. Interestingly, also, they would use the spider's silk to dress wounds because they believed that they would help the wounds heal faster. Egyptians also saw the spider venoms as controlled sacred poisons, and they were powerful if wielded by priests and physicians. In ancient Greece and Rome, Pliny the Elder mentions spiders in pharmacology texts. They would be used for treatments such as they would have powdered spider bodies as antivenoms. They would use spider webs for binding wounds and stopping bleeding. And they suspended spiders worn as amulets for fevers and epilepsy. What? And again, they were using spider silks as wound dressings. They would press spider webs onto wounds like natural bandages. And interestingly, it has been proven today that spider webs have antimicrobial peptides that do help prevent infection. Like what? Also, in medieval and Renaissance Europe, spiders were used for toothache relief. They had a spider sealed in walnut and placed near somebody's gums, which is fucking bizarre. They also had what were called fever charms, where they had spiders in linen pouches that they would wear around their neck. This obviously seems to come from the ancient Greece concept of wearing an amulet, a spider amulet during a fever. And they also used these amulets for what they called falling sickness, which is epilepsy. Another kind of like creepy but interesting thing is that in medieval Europe, they would use spiders for like everyday spell crafting. So, for example, they would put a spider inside eggshells or butter and they would put it on their skin, believing that it would make them more beautiful. And they would often crush spiders and put them in tinctures and herbal mixtures for just local folk sorcery. The other thing that kind of blew my mind is that sometimes in medieval Europe, they would actually take a spider's silk and use it to stitch a wound, which kind of blows my mind. I have no idea how you would thread a spider's silk through a needle, but this is alleged. Then in Italy, between the 14th and 18th centuries, they believed the bite of a tarantula spider would cause melancholy, trembling, hysteria, and a stuck life force. So they believe that wild dancing to tambourine rhythms would help cure you. This is so interesting. But because people would basically ecstatic dance to like get the spider venom out of them, they associated spider bites with trances, exorcisms, somatic release, and just general ecstatic states. Because essentially people are like dancing the venom out. So I found this to be really, really interesting. This idea that like spiders are intoxicants. In the Americas, specifically the Navajo and Pueblo traditions, the Spider Woman was invoked during spiritual healings as a balance of time and space because she was the weaver. So she was a balancing entity. And also, spider webs were used symbolically to catch sickness or bad dreams. So these ideas of dream catchers are inspired by spider webs. In the Amazonian tribes, venom was sometimes used in arrow poisons, and small ritual doses were used for strengthening warriors, basically to trip balls. In some parts of Western Africa, spiders were tied to medicine, but specifically wisdom. And they would often use healing amulets with spider motifs or spider silk embedded in them. I just, I find this so interesting because obviously in our modern era, medicine has become so sterile. And even though all medicine is either derived from or a artificial copy of plant medicine or natural medicine, that is so separated from our common knowledge. You know, when we think of all these pressed pills, they're just white, blue, red pills that we have no connection to. And a lot of these medications are just a mixture of plants or a synthetic replication of these plants. And I think we forget that for thousands of years, our ancestors were making their own medicines. And it just never occurred to me that spiders would be used either as medicine or as a way to become intoxicated. It's so fascinating to me. And perhaps just thinking about this trope of spiders being associated with women and kind of like a trickster woman or even like a darkness, like a villainous woman. I do feel like this kind of brings me back to this trope of the church being terrified of women and being terrified of a sexual woman or being terrified of a witch, because it seems that in almost every culture spiders are associated with magic. They're associated with weaving time and space, and they are associated usually with femininity. And you know, these are all the things the Catholic Church cannot stand. So let's get into some folk tales. I'm going to tell you some stories. It's story time. So this is time for you to make some tea and get settled. So, of course, we will begin with the most famous, Anansi. This is the story of Anansi and the pot of wisdom. This is from West Africa, most notably the Akan people. But the stories of Anansi have spread all throughout different parts of Africa. So just take that with a grain of salt. So, before time had a name, wisdom belonged only to the sky god, Nyame. He gathered every secret, every lesson, every breath of knowing into a single clay pot. And one day, the trickster Anansi, small, clever, and restless, bargained for it. With wit sharper than spear tips. Oh, I'm gonna sneeze. Pardon me. With wit sharper than spear tips, he trapped the python, ensnared the leopard, tricked the fairy, and bottled the hornets, winning the pot of wisdom at last from the sky god. Anansi held it close, guarding it like a treasure chest of fire. I will hide the, the pot of wisdom, Anansi whispered, so no one else may know what I know. So he tied the pot to his chest and began climbing the tallest tree. Higher, higher, and higher he climbed. But the pot swung wildly, knocking the trunk and tripping him with each step. Below, his young son called up. Father, tie the pot to your back instead. It will be easier. Anansi froze. His son had offered him wisdom. Wisdom he thought only he possessed. In a fury and humiliation, Anansi hurled the pot from the tree. It shattered against the earth. Wisdom spilled like seeds in the wind, scattered to mothers and elders, to farmers and dreamers, to children who wake curious and bold. And so the world learned this truth. Wisdom cannot be hoarded. It belongs to everyone. And sometimes they will learn this last. Also, I feel like Anansi was ripped off by the sky god. How can you claim to have all the world's wisdom in a pot? Like, I feel like Anansi just got, I think he's a new fool. I think he just got ripped off. I feel like that's actually my takeaway from this story is that the sky god is not all he's chopped up to be. He is a grifter. He's just like everyone else. Everyone's on the same playing field. We should not be putting anyone on a pedestal, even if they're the sky god. That's my takeaway. Am I sacrilegious? If I'm misinterpreting this, write in. Let me know. esotericannonsense@gmail.com. And now we have the magical, the special, the Spider Woman from the Navajo and Hopi peoples. Before this world opened, the people journeyed through layers of darkness, guided by whispers, dreams, and song. In the hush between worlds, a soft voice called to them, the voice of the Spider Woman, the first weaver. She sat at her loom of starlight, threads glimmering like water in moon glow. With patient fingers, she spun the pattern of existence, a web stretching across time. I'm gonna cry. When the first people emerged into the light of this world, they were confused, overwhelmed, and trembling with newness. Spider Woman appeared to them, gentle as dawn. Follow my thread, she said, and you will never be lost. She taught them to weave, not just blankets or rugs, but relationships, community, balance. Each thread was a prayer, each knot a promise. To honor her, weavers leave tiny openings in their work, a spirit doorway where blessings may enter and illusions may slip away. Every web in the desert glitters with her memory, and every act of creation, a song, a stitch, a breath, is her teaching made visible. For Spider Woman did not merely weave cloth, she wove the world and taught humankind to weave destiny in return. That was so beautiful. That part where it says, she sat at her loom of starlight, threads glimmering like water in moon glow. That is so beautiful. And it reminds me of this song that I grew up hearing at my summer camp, and it's called Seven Golden Daffodils. And it's a love song. Um, it's a love song written to a girl, and the idea of the song is that this man is very poor, but he can show her all these beautiful things and he can give her seven daffodils. And it's a beautiful song. There's a part where he says, I do not have a fortune to buy you pretty things, but I can weave you moonbeams for necklaces and rings. I love this. I also love these visuals. I'm such a visual person. And I know it's true. I know that we can create reality with our thoughts. I know that we change reality with our assumptions and with what we think. But I love this visual aid of weaving reality with these threads that look like water in moon glow. They're invisible, almost invisible, but our beliefs are magical threads that are weaving time and space. That is so lovely. Next up, we have Jorōgumo, who is the Japanese goddess, the goddess of silk seduction. This also reminds me, this Silk, if you don't know, is an amazing band. And I just feel like after you listen to this episode, you should go listen to the Freak Me album by Silk. So, this is a story from the Edo era of Japan, and the goddess Jorōgumo. So, near Jordan Falls in Izu, the air carries secrets. Mist curls like ghost breath, and travelers once spoke of a woman who lived there in the waterfall, beautiful beyond reason, soft voiced, and graceful as rain. Oh my God. I want to be, can you guys, I want somebody to call me graceful as rain. That is so hot. Men would meet her on the forest path and struck silent by her eyes. She would lead them to the sound of falling water, whispering promises sweeter than sake and silk. Ugh, this is so hot. I'm turned on. But once hidden by the ferns and moss, she changed, skin melting into slick chitin, beautiful hair unraveling into shimmering legs, a mouth full of hunger opening wide. For she was Jorōgumo, the spider bride. She wrapped them in silver silk like lovers in sheets, but they never woke again. One day, a monk passing the falls heard cries. He prayed, struck the earth, and drove back her illusion, revealing a massive spider, wounded and shrieking, before it vanished into shadow. Some say she still waits there, slow, patient, and eternal. A reminder that beauty can be a snare, and desire a web of our own making. I don't know. Maybe I'm just sexist, but I'm seeing her as that girl. Like, if she's a giant primordial spider from another dimension, she needs to eat too. She's just eating men. I get it. I get it as people, we don't want to be eaten, and that's totally makes sense to me. But like we hunt animals, like why is she not allowed to hunt? And if one of her forms happens to be a totally gorgeous goddess, I mean, I don't hate her for that. I love her. I'm a fan of Jorōgumo. I have nothing wrong with her. I'm obsessed with her. I feel like we would need to change this narrative. Like just because something eats humans, like doesn't necessarily make them evil. She's just a creature. She's just an interdimensional baddie of mystery who happens to be gorgeous and happens to be a spider entity. Like what's wrong? Like what crime has she committed? How is she a symbol of fear? No, no, no. No, no, no. 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 I'm sorry, no. This pisses me off. We need to change this narrative. I'm obsessed with Jorōgumo. She's my queen. She is my girl. She's a shape-shifting interdimensional spider goddess who eats men. What else do you want? Like, what else could you want from a woman? That's everything I want from a woman. Also, this is kind of reminding me of this hair monster. Let me see if this is the same. I've heard about this like hair demon in Japanese mythology. Okay, no, this is not the hair demon. That is a different girl, but we should maybe do a hair episode. A hair episode would be fun. Hair is very charged. Let's take a quick break. Are you a fan of the podcast and want everyone to know? Well, guess what? We have merch live. There are sweatshirts, t-shirts, tank tops, water bottles, stickers, all kinds of things. There's also some other like random fun things of my personal art. But why not get a tote bag, a tumbler, and a hoodie to tell the world that you listen to the pod? Check it out. There's a link in the description of this video and a link in the description of my podcast and channel. Check me out, babe. For some reason, I like feel guilty right now because just for the record, I do love spiders and I think they are so mystical and so magical and I have so much respect for them, but I do fear them. Little ones not so much, but like bigger spiders, they like give me the creeps. And but I like love them. They deserve to live. They just like freak me the fuck out. And I have to tell you this story. In retrospect, I'm not proud of this story, but this story is like crazy. It really is. This is a crazy story. So when I was like a little kid, I'm talking like a toddler, I had this like really bizarre, irrational fear that um my poop would turn into a tarantula. I have no idea where I got this idea, but like somehow I thought of it. I thought of this one time when I was a toddler, and then it just started coming back. Like every time I would poop, I would just think about my poop turning into a tarantula and crawling on my butt, and it freaked me out. So when I was really little, I would poop really fast, and then I would stand up to make sure my poop didn't turn into a tarantula. And it never did, thank God. And like I said, this is when I was like 3, 4. Fast forward, when I was 19, I was traveling through India and Nepal. And when I was in Nepal, I was staying in this house for like 2 weeks, and it was like a spider cemetery. Like there was spider legs everywhere. Like people had clearly killed spiders in this bathroom, and just there was evidence everywhere. And the spiders in this part of Nepal were huge. They were like the size of like a crab. Um, if you're not watching the video, you can't see my hands, but with their legs spread, they were like the size of, what size is this? Like maybe a mega water, like maybe a Nalgene. Maybe like a classic standard like liter water bottle, that has like the not the abdomen, but the abdomen with its legs spread was like the size of like the diameter of a Nalgene. Is that a helpful description? So there's all these fucking spider legs everywhere. Gross. But I hadn't seen any living spiders in the bathroom, so I just kept it pushing. No big deal. So one day, I was getting ready to poop. And right before I sat down, I noticed that there was a spider leg underneath the toilet seat. Like towards the back of the toilet seat where the hinges are. There was just like a little bit of a spider leg. But there were spider legs everywhere, so I didn't really care. I pooped, and then I stood up, and I just couldn't stop thinking about that spider leg. And I thought, how crazy would it be if that was actually a spider underneath the toilet seat? That would be so. And so I had to look. It was eating me up. So I lifted the toilet seat, and it was a living spider. It was a huge ass fucking spider. It was black. It was massive, and it was under the toilet seat. Just like basically my butt had just been half an inch away from it. I was not pleased. So I didn't want to kill it, but I like got some water and I splashed it because I was like, just get off the toilet. Bitch, this spider went into the fucking toilet. So I was like, it's in the toilet bowl. I had already flushed, by the way, so my poop wasn't in there. It was just a spider in the toilet. So I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm just gonna flush the toilet. I flushed the toilet, and this spider crawled upstream up the porcelain fucking bowl and into like some hidden crevice inside the toilet bowl. Like it had gone under the lip where the water comes down. If I flushed again, the spider was in there. It didn't move. I was horrified. Fine. Okay, I let it go. The next time I needed to use the bathroom, I go in there and the spider is fucking in the toilet bowl. It's just like living inside the toilet. So I flushed it again. This spider fucking crawled upstream. I've never seen anything like it. This spider was in the porcelain toilet, crawling up fucking stream while the water was going. It was horrific. So finally, luckily in this bathroom, we had two toilets. We had a Western toilet and an Eastern toilet. So I was using the Eastern toilet. I was like pooping in the floor. Fine, who cares? But it was really unsettling because literally I was next to the toilet and I could see the spider like crawling around in there. And it was like, it was just not happening. It was just so unsettling, dude. It was so crazy. So finally I was like, I need to nuke this bitch. So I got a fucking bucket and I filled it with water. And I flushed the toilet, and again, the spider was crawling upstream, so I doused it. I just took this fucking 5-gallon bucket, and I put 5 gallons of water on the spider, and it still crawled upstream. Like I would like almost drowned it, and then it just fucking went right up back into its secret spot. Like, what are you talking about? Looking back, I actually feel so bad. I should have just let the spider live. But it was at this point, it was war. So later that night, I filled the 5-gallon bucket up. I put a whole bunch of chemicals, and then we had like a big soup pot, and I filled that soup pot up with water, and I fucking double dosed it, and I waited until the flush was almost done, and then I just double dosed it, and I got it. But I bet you that that spider's still alive. I would put money on it that even in the sewers, that spider was thriving. That spider is indestructible. That spider is incredible. And now I've come clean. I've admitted to my sins. And that brings us that brings us to our next story, the story of Arachne, the weaver who challenged a goddess. In a small village in Lydia lived Arachne, a weaver so skilled that her tapestry shimmered like water in the morning light. Travelers journeyed miles to watch her hands dance across the loom. Pride grew in her heart like ice climbing up a wall. I rival Athena herself, Arachne boasted. No goddess could weave better than I. Athena, disguised as an old woman, warned her, Child, speak humbly. But Arachne refused. So the goddess revealed herself, and the contest began. Athena wove the glory of Olympus. Arachne wove the truth. Gods tricking mortals, disguising themselves, abusing their power. Her tapestry was perfect and unforgiving. I'm obsessed with her. Yes, bitch. Expose her. Hot take, I'm not a fan of the gods in like any pantheon. They're just people. They're literally the same as people. Maybe they have powers. Maybe they're basically superheroes, but they're not better than anyone. I do not believe in hierarchy, so I'm on Arachne's side right now. This girl is my girl. Of course, Athena was fucking pissed. In a rage, Athena tore her tapestry to shreds. Arachne was shattered, and she took a rope to end her shame. Jesus Christ. This, like, okay, obviously these are myths, but sometimes when I read these myths, I feel like there's like parts that feel true and then parts that feel sensationalized by the storytellers or by like the powers that be. I don't believe that Arachne wanted to kill herself. I bet you that Athena killed her and then felt bad. I would put all my money on it that Arachne did not feel bad about herself at all. Okay? But Athena touched the rope that Arachne hung herself from and transformed it into silk. Arachne's body shrank, fingers thinning into delicate legs. If you must weave, Athena whispered, then weave forever. And so she does. In corners and rafters and quiet attics and forgotten eaves, the eternal artist, never silent and never still. I just don't buy this for a second. I don't buy this for a fucking second. Like I said, I feel like a lot of, like specifically the Greek gods, are just rebranded Mesopotamian gods, which are basically just the Anunnaki. I mean, that is the name of the Egyptian, sorry, that is the name of the Mesopotamian gods. They are known as the Anunnaki, and they're just really spoiled, rich aliens who exploit people and play with them like toys. I'm not convinced. I'm not convinced that there's like a moral story to this. No. No, 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 no. No, 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 no. Arachne is my girl though. Love her. Now we have the gorgeous, the beautiful grandmother weaver of the Andes Mountains. This is from the Quechua and Aymara peoples. High in the Andes, where the mountains touch the breath of the sky, elders tell of Spider Grandmother, the Awicha who spun the first thread of life. She lived in a world woven of wind and stone, watching humans arrive in the thin mountain air, shivering, hungry, unskilled. So she crawled from the shadows, ancient and patient. With legs like fine branches and a voice like snow melt, she whispered to the woman first. She taught them the sacred threads, how to dye wool with earth and flower, how to spin stories with cloth. Patterns became prayers. Textiles became cosmic maps. Mountains, stars, rivers, ancestors, all stitched into living memory. Every thread, she said, is a life, and every life is tied to another. In the Andes today, young weavers still greet small spiders like honored elders. They do not kill them, they bless them. For in every strand of yarn, every woven blanket, warming a newborn child, the grandmother weaver lives on, tying humans to the land, to each other, and to the ancient sky. And this is some real shit. This idea, and I think this has been a forgotten art form, that in the ancient world, weaving was associated with protection. So many cultures had symbols and sigils that were woven into the fabric as protection spells, as evoking the ancestors with a family crest. Weaving really is a magical practice and something that sadly is being lost. People are not making their own clothes. People are not do not know how to weave. And this idea that weaving is basically the gift of the spider. It's connecting you with not only creating your own reality, but creating protection within your own reality. It's super magical. It also reminds me of this Buddhist concept of the red thread. The red thread is this idea that your life is like a red thread. Like you yourself are this red thread, and this red thread is you. And so anytime you experience someone, like let's say you just pass someone on the street, it's the same as you and their thread looping together just one time. But let's say you like marry someone and like have kids with them, like you're wrapping your thread around them countless times. And so throughout your infinite lives across the multiverse, you are more likely or you are destined to encounter people that you have a shared red thread with. The more you've experienced them in a past life, the more you've been woven together, and therefore you meeting again is inevitable. I love this idea, and I love the symbol as the spider being associated with weaving our own reality. I actually use the spider a lot when I think about magic or manifestation, and the way I think of it is like trying to magnetically pull things to you instead of trying to like be in control of everything around you. All you need to do is have your web aligned and sit at the center and let things come to you. Things that don't need to come to you will pass through, and things that should come to you will get caught in your web. And the spider actually doesn't do that much. The spider builds their web and just sits at the center and is finely connected with each thread of the web, but sits proudly and centered in their web. And I think that's really powerful and crucial. And this idea of the spider not only being a symbol of a weaver, but being a symbol as an interdimensional creator, weaving time and space together. I think our idea of time and space is so limited because not only are we in human form, but we have been living in a colonized society that doesn't understand the true nature of reality. And in my opinion, I think the spider is like the perfect symbol for us to look up to. Like be less like a human and be more like a spider. Does that help you? The spider is neither good nor evil. She simply is. She reminds us that creation and destruction are threads of the same loom. Our faiths, our fates are interlaced with each other. Every choice we make sends vibration through the invisible web of existence. So the next time you see a spider, tap in. Are you afraid? Are you inspired? Are you like, what is happening? Because perhaps we all are afraid of spiders because of their power. We're afraid of that power within ourselves. I'm just saying, if everything is a projection and we are constantly projecting ourselves onto the outside world, perhaps our fear of spiders comes from their power and autonomy. And we so deeply fear that within ourselves. We've been trained to constantly put ourselves down, not believe in ourselves, think little of ourselves, especially in our human form. And the spider is the exact opposite. They're so much smaller than us and they exude power. They exude sexuality somehow. They exude creation. And perhaps that's something we fear most within ourselves. But for why? You're amazing. You don't need to be afraid of your power. You don't need to be afraid of your ability to create. Lean in, babe. Thank you so much for listening. I appreciate you. You are incredible, and we need more kind human beings on planet Earth like you. So keep it up, babe. Over and out.